Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Environment and Sustainability Committee meeting. I want to thank the folks that are here. And without further ado, I'll call the meeting to order. Declarations, conflicts of interest. Seeing none. Approval of agenda.
Yep.
Okay. Approval of minutes.
Yep.
Julie? Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes? It's on, Peter. It's on. Any business arising from the minutes? Okay, we have item A, Pest Control Service Tender Award.
Mr. Chair. You're not in conflict if we're discussing the other part of it. We're not discussing the pest control.
Okay,
Just the raccoon.
but it's still pest control. And I'm still involved with that other company.
But Peter, before you go, I have a suggestion. We're missing two members. We don't have a full committee. I'd like to have a full committee discussion on this particular topic. The mayor's not here, who's a voting member, and Councilor Bernard's not here. So what I'm asking is that this item to be deferred until we have a full committee to discuss this item. Because we had, Councilor Bernard was here the last time, so.
Mr. Chair, when does the contract start, Armand?
Just let me check. I think we did a May 1st.
Because we may have to extend the current contract, if that's the case, that's all.
Yeah, I just want a full committee, okay?
It's going to go to finance anyways.
No, I understand that, but I want a full committee in order for us to have a discussion here. I think it'd be more prudent to have a full committee discussion because it went to finance. I don't know what took place at finance, but it's back here on our agenda. So with that in mind, I would strongly suggest that we have a full committee to discuss this topic.
So
Is that okay with the committee?
Armand has an update for you.
Just one bit of context, just so you know, we have extended the contract with the current provider while we await our decision
Okay.
over the next 3 years. So that is up until the end of April. So we would have up until the end of April
That's fine.
to make our
That's fine.
award, have it go through finance and.
Great. Thank you, Ramona. Thank you for that update. I appreciate that. Is that okay with the committee? Is that okay? Thank you. Okay, item B. Pardon?
I'm the only thing I'm thinking about is timing wise, like.
Yeah, we can call a special
We
meeting,
would need a
Ramona,
special
but I want the other two members here.
Can I ask why though before I go?
Because you know what, I want to have a full committee discussion.
I get it, but the committee's not here. We had discussion at other committee levels that did involve all committee. We've had council meetings that did involve all council.
Well, because
I guess I'm
this,
curious to see, Chair, what your.
well, because it went to finance, the mayor sits in finance, and apparently you come back here. So in order for it to come back here, I want full committee participation. That's just my wishes.
I don't think you need it.
I know, well, we disagree on that, but I want full committee. Julie,
I'm fine with waiting.
okay, Craig,
I'd rather deal with it.
pardon?
I'd rather deal with it.
Okay, well, anyway,
You're breaking the tie.
I'm gonna break the tie. I want full committee. Okay? All right. Item B, annual report. Katrina, is she here?
Katrina's out sick today, so I can take care of that
Okay,
one.
thank you.
So we do our annual report every year. This is a requirement of our integrated community sustainability plan. So we just do a report on progress of that year. So this would be for the 2020 calendar year, January to December.
Yep.
And we've attached the draft report for committee review. I will note that we did a deep review and there have been some typos that have been repaired since this version. But as far as the overall intent, the overall language of the report, what we're reporting on, there have been no changes since this version. So just looking for feedback from the committee if there's any edits that you'd like us to make, or if not, if we're ready to go to public release.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank Katrina for doing the report. Looks like a lot of work's gone into this. Can I be honest with you, Ramona? I haven't had a chance to read it yet. So, but, you know, I'm more than confident with the, you know, the work and the diligence that Katrina and of course yourself overseeing it. Julie, what's your thoughts?
It has gone through our comms office too, just so.
I'm sorry?
It has gone through communications as well
Okay.
with the city, just so we're.
Great. Councilor Rivera?
Good.
You're okay? Okay. When do you expect to release it, Ramona?
I'll have to check with Katrina on that, but I would say we're probably end of next week. We would do our news release and provide this.
Okay. Yeah, and you know what? By that time, I will have read it.
Okay.
So I want to be informed before we release it to the public. But again, please pass on my appreciation, my gratitude to Katrina. She's doing a great job. She's a really good worker.
She is.
Okay. Do you need a motion for that, Ramona, or is that okay?
I would say yes, we need a motion to release this publicly.
Yeah, but it should go to council first.
Okay.
If you want to read that before we make a motion, then I would suggest deferring until you read it and you know what.
No, that's all right. No, I'm fine.
So you're
I'm
comfortable?
fine. Yeah, I'm comfortable. Yeah,
No, not, okay.
I'm comfortable. By the time it's proposed to being released, I'm fine with that.
Okay. So the motion would then be to go
I've
to
read it
council.
and I move.
I will second it.
Okay, great.
To move to council.
Move to council. So that'll go to council and then a resolution by council. Peter?
Yeah, I think the original one got approved by Councilor Ramona, so this should follow the same path.
That's great. Thank you. GHG inventory.
Okay, so Hamad's actually in training today, so it's just me. I'll be taking care of that one as well.
Okay.
So again, this is something we do on an annual basis. We've done this since 2014 for the city, and we look at sort of everything in our corporate inventory that would include GHG emissions. I'm just going to get to that for our page. So Hamad's provided sort of a high-level overview of what our findings were on our inventory from last year, 2020. So it's a little hard to tell here with it being in black and white, but essentially we have seen some reduction in our GHGs last year. A lot of that we would attribute to COVID and operating our facilities yet less, our operations being reduced. Our expenditure also on table 1 on the second page, you can see our expenditure for energy, fuel has also gone down in 2020 as a result of COVID. So obviously there is some of this work that would be reflected in efficiency upgrades that we've made. We've done a lot Public Works has done a lot on fleet and making that more efficient, our use of the fleet. So some of that is reflected here, but this is just an update basically on our inventory for last year.
Ramona, you mentioned a couple times in your synopsis that because of COVID, it has, safe to say, it has an impact on what's taking place in the last year. If all things being equal and COVID wasn't a significant factor, what do you think the projections would be?
I would love to know the answer to that question. It is difficult to use this tool in that way, in that what do we attribute to COVID and what do we attribute to other things. Some of the previous reports we've brought have been on specific energy upgrades that we've done, for instance, the lighting of the Pownell Parkade, so we can look at those projects individually and show how they impact. But I think we'll have a better picture when we complete our 2021 inventory of how much of this was due to COVID and how much of it was due to efficiency upgrades.
Okay.
Just one point of it, Mr. Chair. I'm the one for streetlights. That one seems to be out of whack, because streetlights are on as they would any other at the time. The variance of 226 to 55 seems to be off. Can we just go back and reaffirm those numbers? Because again, the lights come on, they go off at the same time each and every day. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure why there's such a large variance.
Part of what would be here, and I can ask Samad to do a deeper dive into that, is that we have accelerated our LED conversion. Last year, they did more than we had done in any previous year, and that's been something Public Works has been pushing. And we've talked about at our committee that we really want to see Maritime Electric moving more rapidly to LED conversion for our streetlight. So part of that is what's, that would be what would be happening there, but I can confirm with him that that is the case. But yes, as like based on what is presented here, there has been a reduction in terms of the emissions associated with streetlights.
Okay, and safe to say, Ramona, that all the lights, the new lights that are installed by Maritime Electric are all LED, correct?
Yes.
For those new lights that they're installing, do they shine directly down on the street as opposed to lighting up the entire street?
The intent is that they're directional lighting. I know like the Confederation Trail, for instance, has what's called dark sky compliant lighting, so it's even more directional in that none of the light is meant to like hit over a certain sort of radius outside of the light.
And it's called directional?
Yep, directional lighting, just meaning that it's pointing in the direction it's meant to light up rather than
Okay.
lighting up the general area. So sometimes we have run into issues with Maritime Electric when they do a replacement bulb to LED where the Cobra light kind of gets tipped up or down or to the side one way or the other, and that can affect homeowners if it's shining sort of into their building. So that has come up before, but they are intended to shine downwards onto the street with minimal light beyond sort of that area that they're trying to light.
Do we engage, not to prolong the discussion, but do we engage with an engineer or a consultant when it comes to street lighting and the impact and effect of street lighting and shining specifically down on a certain spot on the street as opposed to, the entire street? Have we done that in the past, Peter?
So the streetlights and Ramona and also planning have been dealing with complaint areas from time to time, but for the most part they have a standard that they set and they are set across the province.
Standard. And that's directional lighting.
For the LED lighting, there are different applications.
Now, just,
And
if you
there's
don't,
more for main arterial versus side roads or other side streets would be different.
now, if you go to the other side of the ledger, what about people that are commuting up and down these streets? They want to feel safe and they want the street well lit. We have people on both sides of the topic and of the issue. And some people like the fact that, I'm not saying everyone, Peter, because there's an impact on people's homes, but we also have folks that like the fact that the street's well lit or parks are well lit, because when parks are lit, for example, that to my mind is deterrent. So there's no vandalism, there's no graffiti, there's no broken glass.
So the lights do provide safety, and so they do provide substantial lighting. It's not towards people's homes. It's pointed towards the streets and pathways and walkways.
Right, okay, so just wanted to just offer that side of the concern, because neighborhood parks, I know for a fact, because parks not being lit, tremendous amount of vandalism, tremendous amount of damage, and of people's properties because it wasn't lit. Talking daycares for that matter, our own city parks equipment, vandalism, and some remarks with that graffiti that's not Not good comments, Peter.
If you have any areas, council, that you get concerns or calls about that are feeling unsafe, we can get our public works staff and or police to do a review to see if they meet those standards.
So there is a standard, correct?
Normally there is.
Okay, I just want to be sure.
Check and see.
I want to be sure, because I go out and do my own observations as well.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Is everyone okay? Do you want a motion on that too, Ramona?
No, that's just for information.
Okay.
We don't typically do a public release on the inventory.
All right. Okay, that's the first one with Ahmad, and then the second one is energy poverty. Okay,
So this is actually a follow-up to a meeting that we had last November where the mayor brought a letter, written to the editor, of The Guardian by Jesse Hitchcock about energy efficiency and about the impact on island communities. So Hamad's been sitting on what is the board called? He's on Efficiency Canada he's the PEI liaison as our our city energy coordinator. So just recently, this information came out to their group that looked at Prince Edward Island in terms of their energy spending as communities. So you can see here, it says that 41% of households on the island spend more than 6% of their income on electricity and home heating fuels. So that's considered a high energy burden for when comparing across Canada. So in Charlottetown specifically, it's at 35%. So really our intent with communicating this to council is just to say energy, there's the environmental impacts obviously of our energy use, but there's also impacts in terms of the viability of our communities, and the home incomes of our residents, and that when we look to develop energy policy, we should also be applying sort of an economic lens for household spending and how sort of some of these initiatives can support homeowners that way.
Joey?
Just trying to read everything through too. I like my hard copy, have to have hard copy. No, it's
Right.
good,
And
thank
more
you.
people are reverting to or going to electric heat pumps, this type of thing. I mean, I know ourselves, when we had our other house before we bought what we had, it was oil. And our electric bill was pretty low, and of course it's high, but our electric bill during the winter is close to $700 a month, which is crazy. And it's like I said, 2 heat pumps and our electric heat, we have electric furnace, so it's expensive. As electricity goes up, people are going to start turning back to oil because oil is cheaper than electricity. That's a scary.
You find it very drastic increase.
Oh, huge.
So is it,
$700 is what we pay in the wintertime.
A month?
And we're paying
Yeah.
a month for electricity. Yeah.
for electricity?
We have 2 heat pumps. And
My God,
Yeah.
that's a lot of money.
It's a great deal of money. We have 2 heat pumps, and we have electric furnace and a hot water heater
You pay $700 a month.
Mhm.
in the winter.
Is
I
there,
don't pay that with my heater in my pool going to 98 degrees in the summer.
so based on what Greg and his family are experiencing, I wonder, does this require further research to, if we're gonna be out there promoting sustainability initiatives like heat pumps and moving towards electricity, then, there's gotta be an incentive, right? There's gotta be an incentive, and it's gotta be a good incentive. There's gotta be a substantial incentive. Has our research indicated that, Ramona?
I think some of what this also is pointing to is a PACE program, which is further down in the agenda, in that providing those incentives and support to homeowners to make conversion on their property. And it could be, I can't speak to, Councillor Brevard's specific experience, but even obtaining some more information on what is the average oil and heating bills for households, depending on the different variables of what they're using, And then, you know, I don't know again about Councilor Rivard's specific situation, but maybe there's support that the city could provide in instances like that that would help with like air sealing and insulation that might reduce some of those costs. I don't know that obviously, but like without, you know, looking at it deeper, but I do think there is ways to improve what people are spending on electricity and oil and to support them in kind of making that.
Okay.
And just to add on to that, there was someone who posted on Ask PEIs through Facebook, and this one person had commented saying that their electricity costs were through the roof as well, and the amount of people that chimed in to say, yeah, that's normal, yeah, we're paying this much. It's not just unique to a few. It appears to be very common that it's quite expensive. And Cindy's over nodding her head thinking, I agree.
I don't think there's any cheap way.
Sorry?
I think it's expensive, whether we use electricity, whether we use oil,
But I think the whole idea of switching to electric was again for the environment as well.
Yeah,
To get away from
absolutely.
the oil, and I mean, it was supposed to be cheaper at the time to switch over, and people spent the money to switch over, and all of a sudden electricity rates started going through the roof, and now I hear people talking about converting back to, or I even see new bills even talking about oil versus electric, which is crazy.
Well,
I think
I
it's
mean,
backwards.
Ramon, correct me if I'm wrong, but moving towards electricity, obviously, was supposed to help with fossil fuels and greenhouse emissions and moving the pendulum that way. But also part of the equation was cost-saving measures, correct?
Yes, absolutely. My understanding is heat pumps are sold as both a reduction in your GHGs, but also as a reduction in your energy costs.
Okay, I got a constituent, she's had it in her place, nice big house. Not quite a year, I must talk to her about it and see what, she's pretty frugal when it comes to payments. She pays very close attention to the expenses in the house, so I'll ask her. And she's got a big house. I mean, a big house. It's a monster. But anyway, I think it'd be nice to. I think we need to have more discussions on this as we move down the road. We want to make sure that we have the right information, accurate information. So again, you know, we want to do this in an enthusiastic way and hopefully provide not only a justification but good incentives.
There's some new incentives that just came out recently from the province too, isn't there? But I thought I saw something where they were doing some other incentive programs as well at that level. Is that?
Yeah, they always have good programs in place, and sometimes they rebrand them and kind of announce them, and sometimes it's new sources of funding that they're using, but they do have them for solar, for heat pumps, for air sealing, for windows.
Yeah.
Province had a program in place too, I think. They still may, that they would send someone out to do an efficiency test. And that there was different programs in place that they would help subsidize some of the costs to make some of these. Is that program still going?
Yes, they do an energy audit. They have it subsidized so that it brings it down to a cost of $100 per home.
Okay.
And so you can come and have like a full energy audit of your home completed, and then they give you a report based on what they find and what they think you should do. And for some of their programs, you need to complete that in order to access the rebates.
Does the actual initial audit cost? Is it on, or do they?
It's
cover that?
$100. So
Oh, that is $100. Okay.
yeah, so probably the cost is, the real cost of something like that is likely more $500-600,
Yeah.
but they subsidize it so the homeowner only pays $100.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, and when we did our neighborhood energy project last year, we covered the cost of the audits for those that participated.
Thank you. It's worth a phone call.
Yeah, that could help there, because there might be something going on there, and you're not the first person that I've heard have said that, but I've also heard on Julie's side too, where it has made a reduction, so it'd be interesting to know, like, what are the stats that even efficiency PI is seeing, like, how many calls do they get on folks that are seeing their costs actually go up as a result?
Is there incentives now? Does the government have incentives now when it comes to purchasing vehicles that are electric? Is there a program now in place?
$5,000, removing $5,000 from old
Yeah.
5,000, that's to purchase the car or lease the car?
to purchase the car. And if you buy a second-hand, there's also a $5,000 piece.
Can you do that in a lease as well?
I do not know that.
Yeah.
So it's 5,000, they cut you a check, $5,000.
I don't know if it goes to the dealer or goes to the purchaser, I'm not sure.
My understanding is they work directly with the dealers and that would be rebated off the cost of the vehicle at time of
So
sale.
what do I see now in the lots? Is it totally electric or is it a hybrid?
There's a couple different versions. There's the hybrid ones that we've been around for some time. There's fully electric, there's plug-in hybrid electric, there's
What's the
few
trend,
different
what's
on
the trend, Ramona?
marketplace. I think the goal is to go full electric, but I do think the plug-in hybrid electrics are helping the transition because they do provide that option if you need a longer range.
And do we have the infrastructure in place so people can plug in?
So
I know
We're starting that, as you know, our one inner team has led that in getting charge stations throughout. They're working with that Maritime Electric and Public Works to get them put in for this year. And we continue to try to work with the business community and other opportunities as well.
5,000, that's a help. 5,000, yeah. The minister made a comment, I don't know if everyone picked up on it. The goal was to have, was it
2030.
2030, to have all cars electric. Now, there's an expert, I'm not sure where, somewhere in Canada, that said that it's an ambitious goal, but doesn't quite see that threshold being met. Any thoughts in here? Can that target be met?
Depends on pricing and what people's cash flow is.
Wonder, the comment about net Z, is that what?
Net zero.
Net zero.
That was kind of funny when they were talking about that on Twitter.
There was a public consultation last night.
Yeah,
Yeah, on net zero.
but it's funny how they worded it they went net Z.
Okay,
And the confusion around just net Z
right.
on Twitter. No one can figure out what it was as opposed to net zero.
So what do you think, can 2030 be met?
Again,
Yeah,
to Peter's point, it
100%.
depends on how much money we throw at it. At the end of the day, it would be, I guess, if you look at sustainability from the bigger picture, do you want all of these gasoline vehicles retired when they're still useful, just in favor of switching to electric? I mean, if we spent a lot of money on it, yes, it could be met. Is it realistic? In my mind, no.
What would, if you had to put a year on it, Ramona, what would it be?
We haven't even committed it at our own level here, government, we're still buying.
I know, so the minister said 2030, what if someone was to say 2040? Is that, no, Cindy? Don't think so?
I don't either.
They'd have to run the numbers again. With that, you also take into account people's household income, also a counselor, and there are other issues going on, whatever they may be. You have to factor those through. And as everyone said, the people are buying cars now that have a lifespan of 8, 9, 10 years. Some won't throw them away until they get to the end of that. We're doing our part. We're change over to our bus fleet will be fully electric in 4 years. Is that the time frame, I think?
It won't be fully electric. It'll be mostly electric.
And that's with the purchase of the new buses, the ones from here on in.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll still have, for instance, we just purchased 6 units of diesel.
Yeah.
I would hope that we
20
would get
years.
15 years out of each of those before we would need to retire them. I guess if there was incentives in place to do early retirement, but to me, then it's then you have pieces of useful infrastructure that you're tossing away and then it becomes a waste issue, right?
Yeah.
So many different factors, Councillor.
I'm trying to follow as best I can. Thank you. Okay.
Joe, I only have another couple of minutes before I have to excuse myself, I'm sorry.
All right. Julie, we'll get through it. PACE policy?
This would be the last major one. The final one after this is just an update. So that the committee approved the attached policy. So we brought the PACE bylaw to this committee last fall. We were still putting it on the agenda for committee of the whole to pass the first and second reading. This PACE policy would talk about how we actually internally deliver on the PACE programming. So I've attached it here for your review. We're calling the program Switch, and Cornwall and Stratford are both going to use the same sort of marketing style on the program. So I've attached sort of an overview of the program, as well as how it will work, how the financing works, how we'll administer it, and then the policy itself will just give some direction internally on how we move ahead with the program delivery. So happy to answer any questions on PACE in general, or the policy specifically, or the bylaw.
Julie, you okay with it? Greg?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ramona. So you're just waiting now to forward it on to committee of the whole? Okay.
So the bylaw goes to committee of the whole. Remind me though, Peter, what do we do with policies? It would now go to
Council.
It would now go to council.
So we would recommend that go to council.
Okay, so we'll take them both at the same time, probably first reading, and we'll take the policy at the same time.
Okay, so moved by Greg, second by Julie. Motion approved, thank you. Okay, our last item is funding streams for active transportation. Ramona, please.
So just a little, sort of the last discussion we've had a number of times about active transportation funding. As you know, the city has submitted a number of applications to the PEI Active Transportation Fund, yet it's very unlikely that we're going to get all our projects funded through that fund. It's just not large enough. But a nice thing that happened a couple weeks ago now is the federal government announced that they're reallocating some of their public transit money into a dedicated stream for active transportation. It's a $4 million fund over the next 5 years. That's $4 million in federal dollars, and then I'm assuming that they'll be working with the provinces to get matching funds provincially. And it would include networks of pathway, bike lanes, trails, pedestrian bridges, as well as support for repairs and planning studies, which is great.
So sorry to interrupt. So bridges and under.
Yes, that would be an eligible project under this fund.
So, okay, so that could be administered through this committee.
Yes, so it would be my intent is that anything that we didn't get funding for through the PEIAT fund, we would
Right.
want to apply for this fund for.
Okay, well-
Is if there's other priorities of council that they would like to pursue this fund.
There's a couple. I know the one for Towers Road.
Yeah.
That's one. And Julie, you have one?
Yeah,
So we can begin there with those two?
yeah. We don't have the funding agreements yet,
Yeah.
or the funding
All right,
process
Peter?
outlined by the infrastructure secretary, so we need to wait for that information, but for now, I just wanted to let the committee know
Okay.
that these dollars are coming and that we should be thinking about those projects.
So they'll-
And we'll bring back the details once we
We will,
need
yeah.
some more.
Sorry?
We'll bring back the details. to the
Yeah,
committee
please,
once we have
but
more.
I think they're top priorities, right, Julie?
And what am I?
Well, and certainly Towers Road, definitely a big priority for the folks living in Sherwood. I can tell you that. Well, Ramona, I want to thank you for not only helping us through the agenda, but pitch hitting for our staff. I think our young staff are doing a great job, Peter. And it was up to me, they deserve a raise. How's that sound?
I hear you.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Second? Motion carried. Thank you.